Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Those Who Give a Damn podcast. I am your host, Dr. Duvalier Malone, and today's conversation is especially meaningful to me. As a son of Fayette, Mississippi, I know the state of Mississippi often is reduced to statistics and stereotypes and political headlines. But Mississippi also is filled with brilliant people, strong families, deep faith, and a rich history. And my guest today is Scott Colom. Scott is a seven-generation Mississippian, husband, father, district attorney, former judge, and candidate for the United States Senate. Scott, welcome to Those Who Give a Damn podcast, and I am so excited to have you here with me today.
Listen, I'm honored to be on your platform talking to a fellow Mississippian. You get it. And
Absolutely.
so I look forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. I want to jump right in because we all have lenses in which we experience the world, lenses in which craft us to be the people that we are. As a seventh generation Mississippian, Mississippi taught you service and leadership, and you are a Mississippi boy who is not proud to call Mississippi home, and you've been able to do that with your career. And a lot of people don't realize, Scott, that you're not someone who just popped on the scene in Mississippi. You've been doing work and in community and work in Mississippi. Walk my viewers through your history and the lenses that have brought you to being candidate for the United States Senate from your home state of Mississippi.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity and for that question. So I was born and raised in Columbus, Mississippi. My mom was elected Chancery Court judge in my area of the state. My dad was a longtime lawyer and, was you know, provide a lot of public service to the community and work to make our area and our whole state better. And so growing up, I just was around a lot of public service, a lot of people that were trying to make our state improve itself. And, Mississippi has been good to me. As a child, I remember going to the YMCA and playing with other kids and riding bikes all across the community. And I just fell in love with my state and the people of my state. I think we're good people. And so when I went to college at Millsaps in Jackson, and then when I went to law school at the University of Wisconsin, had the opportunity to do, whatever I wanted with my career. But what was important to me is moving back to Mississippi, giving back to the state that I felt like needed my talents the most, following in my parents' legacy, and I've been, and then again, the state's been good to me. I mean, I've been, appointed to positions that people thought I had no chance of getting appointed to. First African American Justice Court judge, youngest Justice Court judge in Lowndes County history. 2015, despite all odds, I was able to beat a 27-year incumbent in my area of the state. And I'm proud of my record of keeping the community safe, but keeping the courtroom fair. So it's an honor to serve the people of Mississippi. And as you said, I'm not coming out of nowhere. I've been involved with every organization that's been pushing for progress. I've been involved with campaigns that have been trying to help our state reach its potential. And I'm a proud foot soldier in the journey for progress for Mississippi.
Absolutely. And let me ask you this, Scott. Why is now the right time for you to run for United States Senate? Right? Why
Yeah,
is
it's
now
just
the time?
yeah. I mean, the circumstances and the person I'm running against and the moment we're in are the reason. Right now a lot of Mississippians are struggling. 2024, we were promised lower grocery prices. Well, inflation's at a 3-year high. Anybody going to the grocery store can tell you they're paying more now than they paid before 2024. We were promised no more endless wars. Well, we seem to be in a war with no end in sight. We were promised concepts of a healthcare plan. Well, the concept seems to be Mississippians don't get healthcare. 400,000 Mississippians, according to the Republican Insurance Commissioner, currently do not have health insurance. Next year, another 100,000 at least will lose health insurance. That's 500,000 people that are not going to have health insurance in our state. And so the circumstances are so awful that we've got to have leadership that's willing to step up and fight for our state. And the second thing I would say is that we're really getting failed by our junior senator. Not only is she allowing all these betrayals to happen because she's putting politics over people, she's also partaking in the corruption that's ruining our country. The corruption we're seeing in DC, that people are making money off public service in record amounts, where she's taking money from corporate lobbyists and PACs to go on vacations in Vegas, stay at five-star hotels, eat at nice restaurants, taking money from fertilizer companies that are under investigation for price fixing. While our farmers are struggling, she's taking donations for fertilizer companies that are hurting them. And so that's the other thing. And then she won't do a town hall. This is one point I got to make. I mean, she has not done a town hall in 6 years. She does not campaign. And it's because if she ran into a voter, they would ask her, what has she done for them? And she had to say nothing. And so, but it's also important that I tell people what I am running for, because it's not just that I'm going to prosecute. I mean, it's easy to me. I'm a prosecutor, so I can prosecute a case. But I also want to prosecute a case, or excuse me, I want to make the case for myself. I'm running on higher wages. We haven't raised the minimum wage in close to 20 years. It's still $7.25. That doesn't honor the dignity of work. We need to fight for lower costs. The tariffs have been terrible for Mississippi, for small businesses, for consumers, for farmers. We also have the war in Iran that's been terrible for prices in Mississippi. And last but not least, we got to fight to save our healthcare and save our hospitals. If we do not cancel these cuts that are coming next year and fight to restore funding for people on the Affordable Care Act, Mississippi is going to be in a healthcare crisis. We're going to have 8 rural hospitals that are going to close. We're going to have 500,000, according to the Republican Insurance Commissioner, 500,000 Mississippians who don't have health insurance. That's going to be a crisis for us. And so we got to cancel those cuts and save our healthcare, save our hospitals.
Absolutely. You've been traveling the state quite a bit, and I know you've heard from people from the coast all the way up to North Mississippi. What does Sydney Hyde Smith misunderstands about the people she currently represents? What are you hearing from them? What is she misunderstanding?
Well, I mean, the biggest disappointment is, I don't think she loves the people of Mississippi. It seems to me that she loves the power. She loves the perch. She loves, maybe she loves MAGA, but she doesn't love the people that showed up at the town hall in Philadelphia, Mississippi for me on Good Trouble Monday and, spent so much effort in making sure it was nice and people were there. She doesn't love the people on the Gulf Coast that just want to make sure they have a voice with their senator. They can write a letter and get a response that makes sense, where they can voice their concerns and make sure they're heard. She doesn't love the convenience worker I ran into yesterday who told me that he has an ulcer in his stomach, but he doesn't have health insurance. And so he's trying to figure out how he's going to pay to have that removed. That's the biggest betrayal of us, is that we are a people that deserve representation that's rooted in Mississippi values, Mississippi's interests, and Mississippi progress. And she's not doing that.
Absolutely. What is the biggest lie you believe that politicians tell people of Mississippi? Because when I talk to people and I travel the state of Mississippi, they just, I always use a scenario. I have cousins, and a lot of my cousins sometimes are disengaged about voting. So I'm always on their case about getting out to vote, right? And they say, well, the politicians just lie to me, right? What do you believe is the biggest lie that politicians tell people of Mississippi, and what are you doing now to correct that in your messaging as you're speaking to them, right? And I always talk to people I tell people like my Uncle Terry and different people, and I say, everybody has an Uncle Terry in their family who say, well, I'm not going to vote. Why should I vote, right? And convincing Uncle Terry to vote is hard as hell every year, right? To get him to the poll, right? What is your message to people like that?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I campaign so much across the state, and I do run into that type of pessimism. And I tell them a couple of things. I say, one, there's only one thing that all of us have in common with Elon Musk, the new trillionaire. He got one vote and we got one vote, right? So why would we ever give away our vote when that's the great equalizer in society? The fulsomeness of our democracy is that it's the one thing we all have in common, is that we have one vote. And so, and the other thing I tell them is, not voting is a vote. It's a vote for the status quo. Is if you don't vote, you say, listen, that means I don't want anything to change. So if you're happy with high prices, if you're happy with low wages, if you're happy with 500,000 people not having health insurance, then not voting is supporting that. But if you want to change things, you got to vote. And I understand people are pessimistic. We have too many people in politics that are disconnected from voters. They don't campaign. They just want to run 30-second ads that try to, advertise the voters into believing them. All I can tell the people out there is, trust me based on what I'm doing. I'm not just trying to advertise. I'm trying to campaign everywhere. I'm trying to meet everybody I can. I'm doing town halls all across the state. Show up, look me in the eye, talk to me, give me a chance, because the reality is that cynicism, that pessimism, the people that are in power right now, they want that. That's the biggest lie they tell. is that your vote that make a difference because they want you to feel pessimistic. They want you to feel like you can't make a difference because that's how they stay in power. It's only with belief that change is possible that we can make a difference.
Absolutely. And let me ask you this, Scott. So why should undecided Mississippian voters choose your path to victory?
Yeah, what I
Lean
would
into
tell Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I said lean into that. Why should undecided voters, because there's a part of Mississippi right now, I saw it when the No Kings rally was happening, protests around the country, and we saw it with the voting rights march that was happening there in Mississippi. All roads lead to the South. There were some, people from all different races, all different backgrounds that were there, and many of them are undecided voters. And I want you to speak to those undecided voters of why they should vote for you and give you a chance outside of Sidney High Smith.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for that question because what I'm offering the voters of Mississippi is a senator that's rooted in what's best for our state. I'm not going to DC to be a celebrity. I'm not going there to be just another Democratic senator. I'm going there to be Mississippi senator, someone that's going to fight for higher wages, understands the dignity of a job, wants to bring good paying jobs back to our state, and will prioritize that above anything else, above partisan politics. I'm going to fight for lower costs. I understand what it means for a working family to try to go to the grocery store and afford the basic necessities to survive. I'm going to try to fight to make your costs lower. And last but not least, I understand that healthcare is a human right. And that's one thing we owe to each other as citizens is access to affordable healthcare. And so I'm going to cancel the healthcare cuts that are going to be disastrous for both Democrats, Republicans, independents, all parts of our state. It's going to have an effect everywhere. So, that's what I'm running on. That's what I'm offering.
Absolutely. And Scott, can you speak to some of the concerns that farmers are dealing with across the state of Mississippi? Many times when people talk about our state of Mississippi, and I still call Mississippi our state because I'm a homeboy, right? I'm from Mississippi. My family is there. I went to college there in Mississippi. And to your point, Mississippi has been good to me. And that's where I received my training at before I even came to DC. And we know a lot of our state is agriculture. And the part of our state that's agriculture is not a white or a black thing. Is black and white people, right?
Yeah.
And so for agriculture in our state, it is not race. I want you to speak to farmers and how you're going to help to advocate for those farmers because right now, a lot of farmers across this country, in particular in Mississippi, they're in distress right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was in Clarksdale, Mississippi last weekend for a town hall, and I had a farmer at the farmer's market. I ran to a row crop farmer, and I asked him how he was doing. He said, "Listen, I'm paying 40% more to make 20% less." And the reason he's getting 20% less is because the tariffs have caused their customers to go away. It's the tariff policy that's chaotic, that's not constructive. It hasn't been good for Mississippi. The reason he's paying more is because the war in Iran has driven up fertilizer costs. And you got people like our junior senator that are taking campaign contributions from companies that are taking advantage of that and cheating on prices. At least they're under investigation for it. So my message to them is you've got to put farming in Mississippi above partisan politics. Too
Mhm.
often, people like our junior senator use partisan politics to take away from the fact that she's failing you on fertilizer costs. She's failing you on tariffs. She's failing you on bringing resources. She's not getting a farm bill done. All the things that are actually going to make farming successful in Mississippi, she's neglecting it because she's too worried about being somebody in DC and making money for herself. And so we've got to have. So that's what I would tell them. That's the first thing. The second thing is that what I'm offering is to be a listener, to learn what the farmers need, and to put that over partisan politics. To not just be a rubber stamp for anybody, but to be a fighter for Mississippi.
Wow. I like that. Mississippi hasn't elected a Democratic senator since 1980s, right? In the 1980s. What is your path to victory, and how do you reach voters that have lost faith in politics in Mississippi?
Yeah. So I mean, the great thing about my election is that we've been gaining momentum slowly but surely. If you look at the primary on March 10th, we increased turnout by 90%. Right? We closed the gap between Democratic and Republican voters to 8,000. the polling has us within a margin of error. So we have a lot of momentum. And a big part of that hasn't been that, I mean, I've been blessed to have a lot of fundraising support. We outraised our junior senator last quarter. I'm very proud of that. That was hard work. We got donations from all 82 counties in Mississippi. Our average donation is $150. That's the grind that it takes to raise enough money to get your message out. I also really believe in campaigning. I don't think we can expect voters to come to candidates anymore, right? I think we got to go to the voters. So I go to the festivals and campaign. I go to the housing projects and campaign. I go to the areas where people have been neglected, because the only way you're going to get that trust is if you talk to them, you listen to their problems, you give them a chance to express what they've got going on, you learn and listen, and then take that back and fight for them once you get empowered. Because ultimately, this can't be just a one election thing. What we got to do is we have to win, and then we have to deliver for the voters, because that's how you keep them engaged. They have to feel like their vote made a difference, and so that's what I'm focused on.
Absolutely. And Scott, can you speak to food insecurity in the state of Mississippi? I'm sure you are aware of what's happening there with the governor and withholding of funds. And I saw a post by Congressman Thompson this morning when I was online. And we know how important food is in the summer, right? I grew up in Mississippi to a single mother in poverty and fed Mississippi. And some days, if it wasn't for the assistance of the food assistance programs, I wouldn't have had food growing up there in Mississippi. Can you speak to food insecurity and your plan as senator to help to close the gap on food insecurity in the state, right? And
Yeah,
let's just keep it honest. I know a lot of times we talk in these talking points in Washington, but really, people kids being hungry in the summer, right? That's the biggest piece. When people talk about food insecurity, I say it's simple, right? Kids not having meals in the summer. Speak to that, Scott.
yeah. I mean, it's a very powerful point. I mean, I was at a Jackson town hall, and a voter stood up and told me, she was a social worker, and she said that a lot of her clients are coming in and telling her how much they're struggling with cost and affordability, and their bills and stagnant wages. And what she said was really profound. She said she has to tell her clients, so is she. She living paycheck to paycheck just like them. And she's one emergency away from filing for bankruptcy and having to deal with a crisis in her financial situation. And so, whenever we have people who are supposed to be leaders that are turning down money that would help alleviate hunger and make sure kids have access to food in the summer, it's really shameful. But it goes back to it's a betrayal. That's what it is. It's putting politics over people. It's deciding that you want to be a partisan over being a leader for people. And so for me, the first thing we got to do is we have to get our voice back when it comes to the tariffs. If you look at the Constitution, it could not be more clear that our Congress is supposed to be the people that decide tariffs. And our junior senator, she is totally giving away our voice on tariffs. So we have to get that back, and we have to have tariff policy that focuses on lower costs to make sure people can afford the things they need to survive. And then also, we have to have federal programs that understand that Mississippi is a state that needs we're worth the investment. Is the way I like to phrase it. Just like you said, look at what the investment in you paid off. I mean, look at your success. Look at what you're doing with your platform. That's because we had people that invested in making sure you had the basic necessities so that you could thrive and reach your potential and live your dream. And that's what America at its best is all about. That's what Mississippi at its best is all about. And we got to fight to have leadership that understands that. It's always going to put that first.
Absolutely. And Scott, before I go into the complete the sentence segment of the podcast, I want you to talk to people across the nation now. People across the nation who say, you know what, this can't happen, right? There's no momentum in Mississippi, right? Mississippi will never elect a Democratic senator in 2026, right? I want you to speak to them of why Mississippi is so important, why all roads lead to the South is so important, and how they can support your campaign and get a part of the movement and get people across the country excited. And the reason why I say this, Scott, is we wait until the numbers come out in October, in September, and then we say, oh, wow, people are excited in Mississippi, right? And the nation is always seems to be behind on the excitement that's actually happening in Mississippi. Scott, I have family, I have friends, fraternity brothers, people, they are excited about your campaign. They're excited about the hope and the promise and the future of Mississippi, right? We also saw that with Mike Espy when he was in the runoff with Sidney Hyde Smith, right? And so people around the country, Democrats, we get on board too late. I want you to speak to people across this country so that Democrats across this country, so they can get on board and we can change the narrative that we can gain control of the Senate as Democrats because we have a homeboy in Mississippi who has momentum and who's prone to be the next senator from the state of Mississippi. Speak to them.
Listen, that's a great question. This is what I would tell them. Whenever the country has done well, places like Mississippi have done well. We focused on making sure people in Mississippi had the rights that they deserve, that they had the ability to chase their dreams we should. And when we have not done well as a country, we've ignored places like Mississippi. We've pretended like what happens in Mississippi is not going to affect the country. It's not going to affect the world. And the reality is it does. And so for me, you should care about Mississippi because you should care about our country. And what we're building in Mississippi is really, really fantastic. It is not happening overnight. It didn't start with my campaign. It started with people like Mike Espy, who ran in 2018 and got within 5 points. And then you fast forward to 2023, Brandon Presley, a Democratic candidate for governor, gets within 3 points. Last year, without very much attention, without a lot of resources outside the state, we broke the supermajority in the state Senate. The
Absolutely.
Democrats did. This year we increased turnout 90%. We're within the polling, we're in the margin of error. So for me, I'm rooted in people. And that's my strategy is to get people in Mississippi to believe and get the people in the country to understand that that belief is worth something. You can win with that belief. We're not a state that is as difficult as people think. We're right there. We're at the cusp. And we just need to, like you said, we don't need to wait till the last minute to get the resources we need. Because you wait till the last minute, what you end up doing is you just put it all on television. And to win in Mississippi, you got to have television, but you also got to have touch. You got to be able to
Absolutely.
go talk to people like your uncle and convince them that this vote matters. If you can't talk to the uncle, you got to be able to talk to his nephew and get his nephew excited where he'll talk for you. It's got to be relationship organizing because we're a state where we expect we respect to know our leaders. They want to know that they can trust Scott Colom if they send me to DC. They want to make sure that I'm their person, and that's what I'm offering. I want to be their representative.
Absolutely. And Scott, there is a beautiful thing that's happening in Mississippi that a lot of people in national news is not talking about. But Mississippi is a beautiful place, and the Mississippi that people once knew is changing.
Yeah,
And it is changing because of people that are in community. And it's easy for us to spotlight divisions, but many times people don't spotlight the good work that's happening
right.
across the state. And I'm sure that you're seeing that as you're traveling across the state in all different types of communities as you're working to earn their vote. And so we wish you the best of luck in that. Scott, I want to move into the complete the sentence segment. But before I
Okay.
move into that, we've been asking everybody who's on the podcast one simple question.
Yeah.
Scott, why do you give a damn?
I give a damn because Mississippi matters. Our healthcare matters, our jobs matters, our wages matter, our costs matter, and we got to have a senator that understands that.
Absolutely. All right, complete the sentence. Mississippi deserves a senator who
Fights for higher wages, lower costs, saves our healthcare, saves our hospitals.
the biggest challenge facing working families is
Leadership that doesn't understand the dignity of work and making sure people have jobs and wages that respect the dignity of work.
the Mississippi I believe in is
The one where everybody works together to write a new chapter for our state. Every generation writes a chapter for the history of Mississippi. This is a moment for us to write a new chapter, a chapter that honors our ancestors, but also can make our children and our grandchildren proud.
absolutely, Scott. I think that's enough there. That's good. That's good. So, Scott, I want you to tell people how they can get involved. We're going to pin it in the description of the podcast, but let people know how they can get involved and support your campaign across the country.
You can go to scottcolom.com. You can sign up to volunteer. Of course, you can donate. You can also follow me on social media. I'm on everything, literally everything, and share the post, spread the gospel that Mississippi matters, because together we can go in a new direction this November.
Absolutely. Scott Colom, thank you so much for joining me on Those Who Give a Damn podcast today.
Appreciate it.
And from one son of the South to another one, we wish you the best. And I am so glad that you had an opportunity today to shine a look on what it looks like to be a, son of the South, a son of Mississippi, and someone who have stayed in the state and done the work, and not just using your resume as a two line, but you're actually out there earning the vote of every single Mississippian. And I couldn't be more proud of you. And so, whatever we can do to support you, please let me know. But definitely, the best is yet to come for you, brother, for sure.
Thank you so much, God. Man, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing your platform. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.